Welcome back, everybody. Yes. Questions. Let's jump in. We'll talk about mixing and then we'll talk about mastering. And this is a trick that I will do if I have a 2-track recording. I will do some pretty extensive automation of EQ and level and things like that to 2-track recordings to try to make it sound better and more even. And in fact, that's what I did to the full new, not the new part because that was Emily, but full was me, the A side of the Commend release. I did extensive automation on that thing to try to get it all evened out. Just draw in whatever needs to happen. I'll draw in a lot of volume dips where there's just these peaks that I can't just slap compression on it because it's going to compress everybody else in weird ways. But I'll just like go through and try to even it out the best I can. These days, I like to multi-track it because that gives me so much more flexibility and I can take care of those volume things. I can compress and EQ each track individually, each voice individually as it needs to happen. By the way, I owe a lot to Nathan Moody of Obsidian Sound. I knew Nathan before he started his new life as a mastering engineer, basically. And I learned the importance of focusing the bass frequencies to the center channel a little bit more, not necessarily having the bass frequencies be super wide. And there are many different ways of approaching this that I've learned. When you have a mono signal, it would look like this. You see over here, all of the information is in this shape. Here's the opposite. All the stuff is bouncing around widely from left to right, and the vertical axis is phase correlation. It's either in phase, 100%, which is all the way to the top, that is 100, and then out of phase, inverse, negative, down at the bottom, like it is right now, like everything is there, right? So that is what you really want to pay attention to. Nathan's approach, he was saying, I really suggest you bring those bass frequencies into the center channel more and don't have so much wide pan bass, for example. And so when I then brought in some waves of like Boards of Canada, stuff that I'd listened to a lot, and I checked them out and I was like, whoa, their stuff's really correlated. Like it's existing all in this area up here. Okay, cool. And so I went through and I mastered all my stuff again and tried to really correlate it as best I could without losing too much of the stereo field. Then I took some waves of Visible Cloaks and One-Tricks Point Never. And they have some like totally phase uncorrelated stuff where bass frequencies are all over the place. And they're doing a lot of like psychoacoustic stuff. And it sounds really cool. I would suspect then if I were to take my vinyl copies and then look at it in the phase analysis tool, I bet the bass is more correlated. I bet the whole thing is more correlated. Possibly, maybe not. So I'm looking at this and I'm seeing how like uncorrelated all of this is. At points it's up when the bass comes in, and then at points it's like pretty far under there. And so I do a lot to get it to this point. You see it now, how there's still some under, but on the whole, it is above, especially when boom, when the bass hits. How did I do that? What did I do? You set up an EQ, you can choose mid or side. And you take the sideband, which is all of the side information, not just left, not just right, but anything that's in the side that's not shared by both, that's in mono, that's in the center. So you take that side and you can just high pass the bass, and that will narrow your field. It will make it sound less stereo. And so you got to be a little careful. But what it's basically doing is putting your higher frequencies and your mid and your higher frequencies wide in the stereo field and focusing your bass frequencies down the center. And so I had this epiphany. I had this like eureka moment from something that Nathan said. I started to then regard the music where there are no boundaries between instruments. It's just a smearing of frequencies in the stereo field, in space. Like, whoa. So I just want to take all the bass frequencies and kind of focus them more like this in here, you know? And then I want to have these highs filling out this area over here. And that's not something you can do just by panning alone, by panning instruments, because instruments have all of those frequencies in them in different amounts. But after the fact, when you're just regarding it all as a blend of frequencies, you can then start to choose how wide and how narrow you want those frequencies to be by how much you cut an EQ that is just adjusting the level, the volume of a frequency that's applied to the sideband or the mid band. And so mid-side processing really can bring things together. But it's not only that. I had too much energy in the bass below 30 hertz. I didn't even know it was down there because my monitors don't do that. My headphones don't do that. I have no way of listening to those frequencies down there. I just made a blanket like, okay, everybody below 30 hertz, you're not going to be on this record. I just did a high pass. Below 30 hertz, cut you out. You just don't need that stuff eating up headroom, basically.